Hello and welcome to another Shedmate Q&A. It's Arthur Bessoni here, your host, and in this episode we're going to cover how we can help you win Shed projects in the first meeting or double your Shed sales profitably without new hires or franchising strings. If you don't know about Shedmate yet, we are a software as a service company offering also engineering services for two main segments, the cold forms industry and the structural steel industry. And we have this weekly event. Today, we apologize, we weren't live at 8 a.m. as we generally do. There was, some meetings, but we are, following the promise to actually be live with you today and, deliver the value we always want to do here. Our main goal in this Q&A is to actually reduce the gap between the moment you start using Shedmate and the moment you're actually getting that transformation. In other words, like winning more sales or increasing the profitability of your business or improving your operations. And today I have been talking to many different Shed businesses about different topics, being prospects or existing customers in onboarding meetings or exchanging emails. And there was a lot of questions about setting up pricing and how that can help me as a business owner. And if you are in this industry, you're probably in a family business, right? I think most Shed businesses we came across in Australia and New Zealand, they generally start with a grandfather or father, and then the business is passed through the generations with 30 years of experience, 40 years experience, you name it. And it's generally around family businesses. And the owner is generally the one who loves the craft. Is the person who actually built those Excel spreadsheets back then. Is the one who built the business, who built the reputation, who created the relationship with the suppliers, and has been growing that business with time. But then it gets to a point where it burns out. It becomes harder to actually pass that knowledge, that know-how to other people and create the sustainability and growth of the business and the scalability of that business without having to be really inside the company. You know the feeling, you have a doctor appointment for your family, you run away and then your phone is full of messages, or if you're just outside for holidays, when you come back there are lots of quotes on the waiting for you to actually process or review them. And generally speaking, when we're business owners, managing directors, we want to be involved on the areas that drive revenue, that bring us more money to our company. And sales, it's specifically quoting, generally is where most of these Shed owners they're involved with. They want to quote those sheds. They want to build that reputation, and they want to build that relationship with the prospect. But that generally gets them stuck in that position as well, because there's a lot of complex problems when you're quoting a shed, specifically if you're doing like hot rolled steel, when you have like galvanizing costs, you have fabrication costs, you have concreting details, you have multiple concreting suppliers that offer you the same thing, you have equipment hired. So there's so much little details that you baked all of those in an Excel spreadsheet, but unfortunately only you or a few others in the business understand how to manage that. And then to scale becomes hard, because the new people you hire, they don't understand that fully. They make mistakes. The spreadsheets break. They still rely on you. They need to come back to you all the time, and you feel like that it's never enough. And I'm here to show you a solution for this. I'm here to showcase and share with you some of the challenges we're able to actually overcome for our existing customers that allows them to grow their business with more peace of mind. So I'll start here with some slides that was recently published on our social media that says, see what happens when shed quoting isn't stuck with just one person. And that's the main focus of today's episode. I'd like to cover specifically how we can remove that dependency on one person, because this aligns with many of the questions we got during this week. And imagine quotes going out while we're in a meeting or on a break, and that's how top Shed teams do it. So here comes the story, right? As I mentioned here, one person does all of the quoting. If they're busy away, the quotes don't go out. And your team has the skills, your work is strong, you have built a great business over the years, but quoting still depends on only one person or maybe a few that makes things slow. And what this really means, right? The main problem here is if your quotes are slow, one, your competitors that are doing faster quotes, they're probably winning some of those jobs. or they are showing a better value to their customers. And then there are reasons why you don't want to, release that bone, right? You say, hey, look, I wish someone else could do it, but it's so complex. There's some multiple suppliers, there are project-specific details, there's the equipment hire that I understand well, other people don't. Direction fees, concreting, all of those rules I built on my Excel about the square meter rates, about the cubic meter rates, all of that is super complex. But that dependency isn't on the business. It becomes in one person. Someone that I liked how the team put here, someone you rely on, someone your whole operation waits for. Yes, it's you. And it's generally that leader in the business, right? Because you're right, you're actually focusing on what drives revenue. It's sales. You're trying to improve that. But if it's only you, your limitation is kept. Okay, so our main goal here with Shedmate is also to help you transition from an operator to an owner of your business. So moving from actually doing the craft, but if you do like doing the craft, that's okay. But if you could actually have someone else doing it, and you can actually manage it in a way that it can grow, and you can do whatever you want in the business that fuels your passion or you are more inclined to do, then that's better. That's better because the business doesn't depend on you, but you can do whatever you want with it. So it's the difference of building your business and not running it. So there's a different way to do it, right? Without that person who knows the spreadsheet. So when quoting becomes a system that's simple, it's repeatable, they go out fast, and you're not tied to one specific key person, right? So even if you leave, if you're in Bali for holidays, then it's great. Things can still work without you. So that's why we built the most flexible, most capable quoting system in the Shed industry, and it pulls the knowledge out of your head and turns it into an automated engine that connects pricing, design, and engineering in real time. I'm going to show this on this episode, a showcase of how it all works together. And that gives your team the power to, guess what, win projects in the first customer meeting. This is what we want to do here. We want to give that impression and that professionalism that when customers, they talk to you, they leave the room saying, these guys are good. If I go with someone else, it's probably because I don't have the budget, but I feel that these guys, they know what they're doing. They're professionals, and they care about what I'm doing here, and they're amazing. That's the feeling we want your customers to have once they leave your door, right? And this is all about how you work. If they come to your business and they request a quotation and you're busy, you're stressed out with so many things that you can't keep up and you don't treat them well, or someone else says, okay, we're going to get back to you with a quote, or we need to start drafting some of the shed design intent that you want, and then you can review, you can do some markups, and then they go to the competitor, the guy next door, and they leave the first meeting with architectural plans, site plans, a professional quote, and they have the experience of a service that people feel that he feels like people understand them. So guess who's gonna pick? If they're still waiting for you to finish your drafting, and that's gonna cost you $300, or even if they say no, I'll do it for free, but I'm waiting for my engineer, and it's been a week and you still haven't provided that quote, and the guy has the pricing on the other guy, so maybe he can still go with you, but the chances, they diminish with time. So the fastest you can provide that initial value, the fastest he's going to decide who he's going to close the deal with. And then if you have a system that does that, no more waiting, no more questions if someone's away, no more missing items, how would that transform your business? Okay. So Shedmate does that. So as you guys know, you're probably already in Shedmate, you're one of our customers, and we do code form and hot roads still. The main part I'm going to focus here on this episode is in setting up that instant quoting system that can work for you even if you're not there. And sometimes it can be a bigger monster than it actually is. When you look at it and say, I need to do all of my pricing, but look, I'm going to show you a fast method that will allow you to do just what you need to keep the ball rolling and start quoting your sheds. Okay, and you don't need a lot of time to do this, but you need dedication. There's no way to bring everything that's in your brains in terms of all of the complexity of how you calculate and you quote your sheds, and bring this to a system that's going to replicate how you do things, so your company can grow without actually spending some time on it. So it's very important to do this. It's very important for you to stop for a while, dedicate some time, and change the wheels. You need to stop to change the wheels, and then your car is going to run much faster and much smoother. But it needs that dedication. Without dedication, look, there's nothing else we can do here. We help you in so many different ways. We have our one-to-one sessions, like me teaching you exactly how to do everything in your business. We have webinars. We have support team available for you via phone or email. We have our video tutorials in our website. We have our handouts. We have all of the resources you need to actually get this up and running. But you need to dedicate the time to actually build the system that's gonna improve your operations. And it's all about that vision. If you understand the why you're doing this, why you're actually making this change, and that's actually to get that scalability, then I'm sure things are going to change. So here's just an example of our instant quoting system, and I think one of the main features that we have, which I think it's fantastic how we develop this, is the ability to highlight in the 3D model what we're quoting. And this is a game changer. And then you can issue quotations in real time to any customer, and if you want to learn more about it, just book a meeting with us, and we're going to discuss how you can help. Before I actually move and open here my Shedmate environment and start playing with it to show you some of those good practices and also answer some of the questions you got during the week, I'd like to mention a little bit more about this focus we're having on this episode on take quoting off one person's shoulders. If you are still the person quoting or involved in most of the quotation in your business, and if you want to move from an operator to an owner, this episode's for you, right? You're gonna learn a lot of things you can do here. And what I'd like to say here, guys, is if you want to win that project in the first meeting, and if you want to double your shed sales profitably without new hires or franchising strengths, I think one of the main areas we need to focus is sales. And sometimes when you have people joining Shedmate, they're too worried about so much of the council approval, of the minor details of fabrication, that they miss the big picture here. That the systems we built here were to improve your sales, and when you improve your sales, then you can improve the other areas of your business as you go. So everything starts with your 3D online designer you put on your website. They can run ads and improve your marketing, and you can provide more value for customers to get that inquiry from you. And then it goes to sales. Once you get that initial inquiry, someone wants to talk to you, so they say, hey, I want to build a shed, I'd like a quote from you. This is when sales start. But most people do it very basic. The sales process is, hey, I want to build a shed, here's a quote, see you later. If you want, talk to me. Otherwise, and sometimes that's not the best approach. And I'll give you an example of my house purchase journey. I was going to build a house, and I talked to many real estate agents. And if you're in Australia, you probably know that the real estate agents, they are so busy that they don't care about you buying. They just care about their client, which is the seller, and they're just like, yep, here's the house, it's $1 million, take it or leave it, see you later, boom. So it's very like this. And for people buying, it just feels like a bit disrespectful. It's just like, well, I understand, you got to be very objective on this, but come on, you got to at least be nice and be kind, and sometimes when you're a first home buyer, provide some information. And that's what happened with one of the real estate agents that I talked to. She was very kind. She came to me, even that the client was the buyer, and she was like, hey Arthur, I know you're trying to buy a house here. I know you might probably have a budget, you have things in mind, like if you need any help, just let me know, and I can help find some options. She was not a buyer's agent, by the way. And I was like, oh, thank you for that. Yeah, we're trying to buy a house. Here's our budget, blah blah. And I, share with her everything. And she's like, hey, you know what? You actually, if you want to wait, you could actually build a house and get much value out of it. And then I was like, that's nice. So she was playing the long game. She's not selling me something right now, but she was advising me in the best that I could have for me, and I really liked that. And then I started talking to some house builders. And then the first conversation was similar. He got there, it's like, yeah, I want to build a house, and I want to know how much it costs. And the conversation was something like this. Look, we have these plans here for the kind of budget you've got. This house here is, for example, $500,000 to build. And I was like, yeah, is that the final cost? And she's like, oh no, actually you need to add carpet, you need to add the AC, you need to add this, and that price might go up a little bit. So to give you a full price, we need to kind of draft the plans, we need to do this, and that. So there was a very complicated process, and I was like, oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, if you could do that for me. And then while she was building all of that, like quote, right, well, just building the plans, doing all of that, I went to another builder, and this builder said, look, we have two options here. One, if you want something very tailored, very customizable, we can do that for you. It's going to cost you a little bit more. We're going to draft your plans. You're going to do this. So they explained me the process very well in the first meeting. They said, look, this is one option. The other option is we have all of these house plans here, and we have fixed prices for those. That's the price we give you the key. There are no hidden costs. It already comes with everything that you need, like energy efficiency. We cover everything, and that's the final price. If you want to make changes to it, that's when the price goes up, and we have a variation. This is the percentage we cover in the variation. There are things that might change your price. For example, the soil test they're going to run in your block, and also the if the water meter is in the middle and you need to change for your driveway, then there is a cost of $1,000 to do this and that. And then I left that meeting with clarity. I left that meeting was like, oh wow, I know how much I need to spend money on, and all of the other things that I didn't know, they gave me clarity. They said, if this happens, then that's how much it's going to cost. If that happens, that's how much it's going to cost. And guess who I picked? When the other guys came back to me with the quote, I was like, yeah, sorry guys, I already signed the contract. Because I had my finance, I need clarity, and then that company gave me exactly what I needed, clarity. So why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because in the sales process with your customers, you need to show them that you understand them. So customers don't buy from those they understand, but from those they feel understood by. And that's how I felt. I felt understood by that specific house builder, that understood that your first home buyer, you have access to this grant, you have this, you have that, and they explained me the whole process. They gave me clarity. They gave me like a price on the first day, and I was able to actually dream back home with my wife, say, hey, we have these different floor plans. If you go on this one, that's going to cost a little bit more, so what do you think? So the decision-making process was much easier than with the other company. And I'm telling you this story here because it's exactly the same for you. Someone is coming to your business to build a shed. If you just give them like a price and say, see you later, if they don't feel understood, well, they might still buy from you because the market might be, warm. They need someone to build that. But if you compare a competitor who is actually delivering a quote in the first day and is giving that level of service, and you compare someone who is not giving that level of service and just saying, yeah, we need to do the drafting, I'm going to get back to you in a week. Oh, sorry, my engineer didn't design the shed yet. We have to do this, we have to do that. So this is the difference of those actually creating great relationships in the long term and just going for price. When customers just are worried about price, they get out because of price as well. So you need to create fans. You need to create people who like your company. And then how do you do that? How do you do that? Like, one is having a better system that's not dependent on the subjectivity of someone specifically in your company. And one way to do this is to actually have a system that can understand the objections of your customer and provide clarity. You can provide side plans in the first meeting. You can provide like a quotation in the first meeting. You can provide preliminary engineering. You can provide all of that information right on the spot. And this is where the main difference changes. You might come with some objections when I say this, or they say, oh, but what if I don't have the full pricing from my engineer? Look, you could still provide a quotation if you don't have the any engineer that's doing preliminary engineering for you for structural steel sheds. But you can put an estimation, and you can put on that saying, hey, look, design subject to engineering changes. But at least you're providing some ideas so they can start thinking about the project they're going to build. Okay. On this code form shed, we have that covered for you, and we do all of the preliminary engineering in real time as well. So no matter what you're doing out there, if it's structural steel, if it's code formed, this system works for you. And I'll show you an example here right now. So let's say that a customer comes into my office and say, hey Arthur, I want to build a shed, mate. Then I can talk to him. Yeah, sure, absolutely. What's your name? Yeah, my name is John. Mallow. I am based in, let's say, Perth. Actually, I'm gonna use Mount Gambier. That's the city my kids were born, so I'm going to use Mount Gambier. I like Mount Gambier. Okay, um, let's build your Shedmate. So what are you thinking about? And they might not know yet. And here's when the shed presets can help, because you can build here different shed topologies. You can build folders where you can click and you can have different types of sheds out there. And the sky's the limit here. You can do whatever you want. But let's say that, all right, let's start with a basic standard Gable here. And look, what you're thinking about. And then before the customer starts telling you anything, you can already, trigger preliminary engineering and pricing for the shed. So when you're making changes, you can see those changes in real time. So if I actually load my pricing here, and I'll select here the structural steel master database, and I'll also run some engineering here. So if I actually run this engineering, I can actually tell, what's my region type. If it's a code form, it's going to run site specifics. And then we need to draft the site plan. I'll go on that workflow in a bit. But I just want to, build something here to start. And then based on the information I just pasted here, Shedmate already created some basic engineering for me and some pricing for this basic shed. And they might say, hey, no, Arthur, 90 grand's too much. My budget is 75. Okay, so what you planning? So let's say if you go back to, 9 meters wide. So 72, almost this. Maybe you can go 10 meters wide. Are you happy with 3.6? It's like, oh, no, actually 3.4 will do. Okay, 3.4, then 77. So we're using here trim deck. We still need to add some stuff here. So let's add a door here on the side, and then maybe a roller door. Sorry, roller door. Maybe this roller door here could be, let's say, 2.8 meters high. And okay, can I add some sliding panel doors? Yeah, sure. And then I'm using some keyboard shortcuts here to add those these sliding panels. And I can actually move this to another track. So you can see, how the shed's starting to look like. And the customer can say, yeah, any color specifically? Oh, my house is monument. So do you have any monument? Yeah, yep, we can put, the roof in monument. Actually, you can put the whole shed in monument if you want. And I really like sheds in monument. I think they look really sharp. If you like those, nice gyms. Yep. So here's an example of how it looks like here, and it's $87,000 made. So look, if you're looking about 70, then we need to make some concessions here. So at the moment, and then you can come here and have that discussion with the customer. At the moment, I'm including erection, council fees, and concreting. And he might say, no, actually, I have my brother has a concreting company. He's gonna do that for me. Oh, okay, no worries. So no concreting for you. It goes down to 65. And he's like, yep, now it's starting to look sharp. So he just wanted the erection and the shed, but someone else will do the concreting, and his budget is 75. So here's when you, as a salesperson, can start, to make those changes, can start to interact. Say, hey, look, it would be nice. Let's say in the future you've got a boat, so it would be nice to put at least 4.2 meters high here. So you still have, $5,000 left, but you have a much better shed. And then you could add a mezzanine at the end there. So what do you do? And then, it's, oh yeah, I really like cars, I have an old car. Yeah, what if you put your old car on top of that mezzanine? Imagine this. So can you understand what I'm saying here? We are actually having that sales interaction with the customer, trying to provide value to him, but providing them in real time how much his shed is going to cost. And then this is the value I want to show you here that you can bring to your customers. And we're going to see on the behind the scenes how this pricing works out, and the most effective way to actually set up that in your business in this 1 hour session. So here we can actually show a perspective view and actually go inside the shed, zoom in here, so the customer can have a good feeling. Okay, yeah, that's how my shed's going to look like. That's pretty good. I like that. And then no matter what modifications you're making here, we have preliminary engineering running for you in the background. And we have your pricing database running as well, and also your design changing in real time. And there's so much I can do here. It's like, yep, look, what you can do now is, if you're happy with this design, what if I export some architectural plans for you? And then you can go home. You can, make some hand drawings with your wife, with your kids, and then, tell me if that's actually what you need. If you need me to make any modifications to the shed, we can talk about it later. And it's like, yep, good. So let's do that. So we're just producing here our plans for the shed in real time in front of the customer. Okay, finished. Let's just hit download here. and I'm gonna open this, and this is how it looks like. So I have here my 3D view. I have here a floor plan that shows that little mezzanine, that shows all of the bays, that shows everything there. It shows the area. It shows here the roller door, the PA door. It shows some elevations. So we just created this in real time, and we provided this to a customer. That's not even our client yet. We could maybe cut those 2 last pages. We don't want maybe to provide too much. But see, if you can do that, and it doesn't cost you anything to do, and you provide that value to the customer, and someone else doesn't, who do you guess he's going to go with? Or at least who is going to be more in depth with? He's going to be, yeah, these guys help me a lot. I really like it. Their pricing is good. They are professionals. I'll go with them. Especially if they're doing concrete to someone else. Like, look, we're not involved in your concrete, but we could provide you with this concrete slab that you could give to your say, brother-in-law to do the concreting for you. That's one thing. The other thing you can do here is site plan. When the customer, you can have a good discussion with them, and for example, I'll get a block here. Tennessee Woods College. I could actually search for anything. I just like this block because it's big, and I'll probably get some residential block around. So as you can see here, Shedmate automatically detects the block boundary around. So there are some houses, kind of a farm here. So let me maybe get this one. Let me see if this one, yeah, this one's a good one. So let's say that this is the client block, right? What I can do is I can just move that little shed there, and I'm gonna delete this block boundary here. That was just that Tennessee wood block, and I can actually toggle high resolution imagery here on the go, and I can see the aerial imagery of that block. I could come here and discuss with this customer. Look, where do you want to put that shed? Oh, yeah, I want to put that shed on the little corner there, somewhere like this. You know, I want to keep the building, so let's say, you know, I'm going to put more or less here. Can rotate. I could fine tune it here, you know, go really close to where I need. I can actually add a stopper. So if I zoom in a little bit here, I say, look, I'll add a stopper here, 1 meter. So what happens when I add a stopper is my dimension goes all the way to the house there. I could add another stopper on the side here. Say, okay, from up to the shed. That's at 13.6 meters. And I could, you know, move this around, do whatever I want here. But look, I'm talking to the customer. I'm looking at his block. I am, you know, discussing with him the best design. And then at the end, I can say, okay, yep, let's build. You have a big building, a big block. So I'll just print this in A3 and provide this to you as well. So let's look how it looks like. So that's something you can print straight away and give to that customer. As you can see, most of the dimensions are there for what the customer needs. So he's leaving your first meeting with potential architectural plans, with site plan, and we're doing all of this real time here as we are talking. And then if I go back here, guess what? Forgot to save this. Yeah, and I think I probably closed the alert saying that I was gonna leave the page without saving. No problem. We can do that again very quickly. 14 by 10. Let's do this. 14 by 10. I had some sliding door panels, and I was actually gonna come back here to change the colors because I just mentioned a monument in that example, but monument is actually not. That shed we just did here has something like wind spray. So this was 4.2 meters high, and we just added a mezzanine. So that was how quick we did that again. Another bay there. Okay, there we go. So we have the building here. Let me save the shed this time. By the way, when you're saving things, everything stays here on the versions, so you can go back to any version of your shed model as you know, evolving with the design. And instead of zinc, I'll change this to color bond, which is going to be a little bit more expensive. I'm just going to change this to maybe wind spray, and I'll apply to everything. 75. So that's kind of within my client's budget. I'm just going to apply engineering again and save this project. So now the last part I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click here and I'll show you something very important. That's part of that transition from owner to from operator to owner that I mentioned. Is when you're giving to people who maybe don't have the same know-how as you do, the ability to do quoting, you want to make sure that you have systems that work with guardrails. So one example of it is here. You can see that there is some a warning here, and there's some unquantified items in the shed. So if I actually try to create a quotation here, say generate a document for me, it's gonna say, hey, wait, the quoting might be inaccurate because of the missing items. Would you like to continue? So it's actually telling me there are some missed items and saying, would you like to print a list of the unquantified items so you can see what's missing in this quotation? And why is it saying this? Because Shedmate integrates the pricing with the model. So it's actually showing that, okay, these two items here, which are some folded channels, they are not included in your pricing. In this case here, okay, that's fine. That's not going to cost me much. I can just, skip. And we're going to see here on the behind the scenes, you're seeing here the front stage that your sales team will use. But we also have the behind the scenes, that's the project breakdown of every single item that's being used to quantify the $75,000 to $65,600. You could round up this if you want in your business, there's no problem. But that's an example here of what you can do. In the settings, you could actually block your sales team from exporting any item that has any project that has unquantified items as well. In this example here, I'll just generate that document. That's fine. Okay, I want to continue. I don't want to print. I'm okay. I've seen that it's just only those two items that I don't have pricing for, so that's why it's not quantifying it. So that's something I would need to build on my pricing database with time. Okay, let me save this to just show you the outcome of the quotation that you can present to that customer in the first meeting. And you can see how quick it is. If you go back to this in this live event here, you can see that we're just doing all of this in real time. And once you get up and running Shedmate and you don't have to explain everything I'm explaining to you here, you can produce all of this even faster. So here we have an example of a quotation. You can modify this template here and add your logo on it. I have here the project information, the building specifications. We have the steel structure details. If you want to include this, if you don't want, you could remove this. You have the concrete details, and you have the quote details. We generally advise our customers to tidy up this information here. We generally put more information than needed because it's easier when we are onboarding you just to delete some piece of information than to add it back. So that's why you're probably going to see more information than needed on the templates, but it's very easy to just say, yep, we don't do this, we don't do that, and then you're going to have a template that's lean and works for your business. And then we have here next steps and confirmation of order. So you can see how, like, the amount of clarity you're giving here, guys. We have an architectural plan, so the customer understands exactly what they're building, and you can print it and give to them in the first meeting, or you can send that via email in the first phone call as you're talking to them. And another tool here to mention that some of our customers, they don't know, it's a little bit hidden here, but it's the share button. What the share button does is it creates a QR code that you can copy a link and send that link to a customer. And I'm going to open an anonymous page here as if I was just a customer. And when you open that link, what it shows to you is a viewable version of that design you just did. So you can be on the phone with the customer, understanding their requirements. You can actually ask for their site address. You can, have that image, high resolution imagery while you're on the phone. You can position the shed and discuss with him where you want things to be placed. And by the time you finish the conversation, you send to them a PDF with a site plan and the building place on it. You send this link here with a 3D view of how the shed looks like, so they can, see how the claddings are going to be. You can see an orthographic view or perspective view. They can see the fabrication view. They can tag stuff and see what's actually included in that quotation. For example, the web truss cord. They can see here there's a Z. If you provide all of this information with a clear pricing and options, just like we are providing here, a template that says, look, now you need to pay a deposit. Here's just a template. If your deposit is 20%, so be it. You can set up all of these with our team when you're doing the onboarding. But you're telling them, this is how much your shed costs. That's how much the supply only, like the shed kit costs. That's how much the erection costs. That's how much engineering will cost. That's how much your shed's going to cost in total. And here's how much you need to pay us. And all of the details are here. And if you scroll down the page, you can even see some additional basic imagery if you don't want to provide the high resolution imagery and architectural plans we just seen exporting here. So this is the difference of providing that higher level of service. And then let's say that your customer comes back to you and they change their mind. And I'll show here how the engineering works in the background as well. So if the customer says, look, Arthur, now we're going to 25 meters wide. Can we do it? Look what happens. When you go 25 meters wide, all of the frames update automatically based on the preliminary engineering that your company can provide to the system. Okay, so there are two ways to do it. If you are in the code formed segment, then Shedmate will do the preliminary engineering for you in real time using site specifics, so you don't need to worry about it. But if you're using universal beams, web trusses, if you're doing hot road structural steel, then you can come to settings. You can go to company pre-engineering database, and guess what? Here's the list of computations you can play with. So remember when I mentioned to you that when I went to ask for a quote for my house, they gave me a fixed price. And I really like this because it gave me clarity, right? Well, the builder didn't have exact how much the engineer would charge them. But they had a very good base figure that's formed with the historical experience. And that's what most companies have out there. And if you want to do that, if you want to bring that intelligence to here, you can. And you can do this by just importing an Excel file that will be similar to this here. So hey, look, if the shed is up to 36 meter wide, 8.2 meters high, 9 meter maximum base, so this is the minimum and max of each one of those criteria: minimum roof angle, maximum roof angle, wind region, TC, importance level. Then you're going to have a solution for each one of those computations. And the solution would be something like, we're going to use universal beam, 460, 74.6. We're going to use the column frame. We're not going to use web truss. So you can build that by importing your existing company data into the system. And once you upload this to here, you have the safety of only your company will have access to this, not any other customer will have access to it, not even our team. But this is what is going to be used to run the system that you just saw running here with me. So now when you make those changes in the engineering here, and you go from 10 to 15, for example, you can see those frames updating in real time, and then your pricing updating in real time. So how fast it is to do this compared to the old traditional way in which you need to do the drafting, you need to send the quote to another team that's going to open some Excel spreadsheets, repopulate some data that was already added in other forms, maybe in your website. So all of these here is what gives you that agility to be a more competitive company in this market. Okay. So I hope it's making sense, all of this. There's so much little details here. If you have specific questions about them, please send to us. Okay, send to support@shedmate.com.au. Any future episodes, I can answer those straight away and guide you to the best workflows available. But here we have the groups, and these groups. Yes, one of the questions I got this week is, can we simplify those groups? Absolutely. I'll show you where we do this. Same for the variables. So these are project variables. These project variables are include or don't include the erection, include or don't include council fees. It could be, for example, distance for concreting, because that's needed to quantify your concreting transportation. It could be distance from my main business to the site, because it could be used to quantify your maybe like material delivery costs. It could be anything specifically to this project. Some companies that we have, they use, for example, even options here in the public variables to say if the keys of the doors are going to be alike. So there are so many different things you could add here. This is fully customizable. What you see here is just a template we built for you, and when you subscribe to Shedmate, as you know, you have access to this template straight away, but you can build on top of it, right? And also, this is a feature that not a lot of people use, but here you can add additional inclusions or exclusions based on the conversation you have with the customer for this specific need, and also add general notes and terms and conditions. Just a second, let me turn the lights on again, and I'll come back. Yeah, good. Thank you for the patience. So when you fill in this information, I just want to show you on the outcome on the quotation here, where does it go, right? So opening that quote again, so we have here the inclusions, exclusions, general specifications. So if I'm adding an inclusion and exclusion for this specific quotation I'm giving to the customer, the information will be here. Okay. One example of this that it's very common is when you, let's say, if I click here on this roller door, I have an option here called ignore in quoting. So sometimes a customer will say, hey, look, I already have a roller door that I bought 2 years ago for another business that I've got. Can you do that quote for me, but just don't put the price of the roller door? Yeah, we could do this, ignoring quote. So the roller door wouldn't be added in the quoting here. As you can see, it's removed from the pricing. And then when I go to my pricing and I create, oops, I clicked here on export, boom, let me go back. When I come here to the summary, I could say excluded roller door and anything else you want to add here. So when I save this quotation, then that information will come here on the inclusions and exclusions. So that's another pro tip for you already using Shedmate, that sometimes you just don't use that feature. Okay. All right. I think we covered enough on the front stage of how Shedmate operates in terms of providing that value to the customer, and sharing links, creating documents that will create that feeling that the customer is like, this company understands me. They gave me what I needed. They discussed about my shed. They showed me real time how my shed is going to look like. They showed me project variations. They showed me many different design options, and all of that in real time in the first meeting. That's awesome. I really like these guys. But now I want to show you how you as a business can actually implement a similar system as we have here in a way that doesn't take so long. So if I close here and actually open instant quoting, now we entering here in that behind the scenes. And by the way, not every Shedmate user has access to this. Some companies, they have this only for their managers. That's where they manage their pricing. You as a salesperson just see the front page, which is great. You don't need to worry about all of this. They do that for you. Some other customers, they're smaller. They have a small team and they have access to everything. So if you go to instant quoting, you're probably going to see something similar to this. We have here our pricing database. We have our pricing calculations. And inside our pricing calculation, we have our groups. And in the groups, we can define the base price, the markup value for each of those groups, taxes, any discount, and the total price. So this is what forms the $75,000 that we're seeing in that specific shed. So if we're kind of reverse engineering that pricing, this is how it would look like. We have the $75,000 price. That's the sum of all of those specific groups. That might include shed materials, admin costs, erection, council fees, delivery, and all of those groups here, they can be modified. You can create new groups, you can remove groups, you can do really whatever you want here. All of these items, they have a specific markup that could be a fixed price, as we have here variable, or I could just unlink this and say, look, my markup here is 15%. And then you can see here that the base price of all your shed materials is $27.3. Your markup is $4,000. You have 3.1 in taxes, and then the whole value is 34.5. So this is the reverse engineering of that full price. Okay, now what's included in my shed materials, right? What's included in your shed materials is the sum of all of the pricing calculations. So the pricing calculations are just the formulas, the kind of replacement of your Excel spreadsheet that comes here and builds the intelligence that you need, so anyone else can use this system, and you're going to be confident that's going to work. So for example, concrete for slabs, 32 MPa. So here I have a system that's looking in the model for everything that has the floors in my Shedmate. And I have a $311.85 per cubic meters, only applicable for 32 MPa, which is the concrete resistance. If you have another concrete that's 28 MPAs, that's going to be a different pricing. But then Shedmate is also, for this specific rule here, multiplying that by 1.1, just to have a little bit more of concrete if anything happens in the side. So I want to make sure that we are covered with a 10% increase. This could be 0.5, and you can see my pricing changing there. Or it could be 1.1. Every company will be different here, okay? And then if I click on this little item here, Shedmate is actually going to highlight in the model for me where that concrete pricing is coming from. So where is that volume? And you're gonna be surprised when you testing Shedmate against other systems, specifically when you're testing against Excel. And I've done that so much because I was, fine tuning the system. I was like, hey, look, I have this quotation. I want to make sure Shedmate is not missing anything. And then there were many times that Shedmate was giving me a value that was like, okay, that's wrong. That's not what I have calculated. And then when I actually looked and compared the model, I actually had made a mistake on my Excel, not on Shedmate. And I was like, so it was actually a little bit smarter than me. And the reason is data management. Shedmate integrates your pricing with the 3D model. So if the concrete slab is bigger now, it's going to update all of this automatically. And you don't need to see all of this. But if you want to inspect, if you want to have like some auditability on every single one of your sheds, you can. So when was the last time that you could open any project in your company and you could see how much you spend with concrete, or how much you spend with cladding, or how much you spend with bolts? So this is the clarity that Shedmates give you on an order, the most expensive all the way to the least expensive item in this specific shed pricing we're giving here, which is $2.8 related to the purlin bolts for the roller doors. And once again, if I click on the items, it's going to highlight where that's actually coming from, or the main item that's associated with. Okay, so I'm going through here the kind of reverse engineering of this, and each one of those pricing calculations, they can vary a lot. So sometimes it's like a estimation that's a secondary item. In other words, secondary means that's not associated with a physical material. So for example, the concrete for slab is a primary item because there's a concrete there. So that's what I'm pricing. But the shed roof labor is not a physical material, but it's a secondary item that I'm going to calculate based on something. In this case, it's the roof. So here we have a quantification. That's $30 per square meter of roof for my labor. And that's what Shedmate is calculating for you. If you do something else, then we can set up this for you here as well. The system is extremely flexible. And here's a breakdown of how you can see every single one of those materials, so you can have clarity and ensure you're not doubling up, or the system is not faulty, or something that you actually created is not missing any of those items that it was supposed to calculate. So when you bring the intelligence you have in the shed industry with a 3D model that's smart, and you put it all together with an engineering that's running automatically for that preliminary engineering purpose, you have an extremely powerful system that, once set up and tested, anyone in your business pretty much could use this with some confidence. And that it's your test that's going to give that to you, that confidence to say, look, now I can delegate this to someone else, because something that was very complex in my business now can be done in a good way. And I've seen it. I've talked to many different companies in Australia and New Zealand. We've done different implementations in larger companies, in smaller companies, and you can see that manual documentation and hand drawings, they're still out there. And when I show this to most of my clients, they're like, wow, I can't believe it. And then comes back that first impression, oh, that's going to take me forever to do all of this. And here's the moment that I want to simplify that to you. No, it's not. It's not going to take forever. You can do exactly what I did here on the reverse engineering to build your pricing library. So you could work first on your groups. You could add your markups. You could add your tax and discounts. This is not going to take you a lot of time. You can go back to the main, and we've done most of the heavy lifting for you. Okay, your goal here is to actually add your pricing, and then test this and see if there is anything missing, and then you can start using in parallel with your existing systems, up to a point where you say, yes, I'm confident with what Shedmate is giving me. I have refined this enough. Now I can detach from the old systems. So that transition, if you take with this mindset of testing in parallel with a small group of people that's going to do this internally, you're going to have much more success if you think that you're going to do a whole implementation and change everything in like overnight. Okay, and we discuss here some of those pricing calculations here. That's pretty much how we calculate each one of those items, how we add some specific formulas, how we create more complexity in our calculations. So another example here I can give you, for example, is purlin bolts. So let me see if I have some purlin bolts here. Yep, we do have some purlin bolts. Here's an example of a purlin bolt formula. So it's actually saying that I have 3 purlin bolts per bracing. So every time I have the roof bracings, I just add that 3 times, and that's it. So that's how simple it was to create this one. Purlin connection plates. So this one here now we have a higher level of complexity. In this case, we're using a formula, and this formula here is more complex, but it's just like Excel. So where are these formulas coming from? You can search anything that Shedmate creates here on defined variable. So for example, if I want to create, and I'll just delete this here for a while. If I want to create a formula that says, look, I want to multiply the shed width by the shed length by the height by something else. I just did this today with a customer. We can say shed, actually width. We can search here, and then Shedmate is going to show me all of the variables it found on that specific project that contains width. So it shows here the width dimension type, the bay count, dynamic bay maximum length, downpipe profile width. So in this case, we're using shed width, right? So it's the 10,000. We're using millimeters here, so I can just divide by 1,000 and have 10 meters. And then if I multiply this by length, so shed length, boom, and I could actually divide this as a group, right? So I'm multiplying here shed width by shed length, and I'm dividing this by oops, 14,000. Dividing this by, okay, I have 140, and if I want to multiply all of this by the height of my shed, I go height, and then Shedmate is going to show me a lot of different things here, and then shed height is there, boom, and divide by 1,000 again. So I have 588. So here's an example of, for example, in today's example, my customer said, I want to get the shed width, multiply this by 2, multiply 2 times the shed length, and divide and multiply by the shed height. So I want to know the area of my walls. So that's one example of a formula you could create here, but you can create formulas with anything. If you type here purlins, Shedmate is going to show you a lot of like the maximum purlin spacing, the purlin spacing, Y spacing, Z spacing. So there's so much geometry here that it could be used to create a lot of things for you. So I'm showing you a very complex formula here that was built to calculate those connection. And we're talking about $194,000. Sorry, $194 here for this example. So this is what you do in the pricing calculations. That's where most of the complexity sits, and you don't need to do this every time. You do it once, and you refine as you go, and you set. Every new shed you're using, you apply the same pricing database, and your shed pricing is going to show to you instantly using all of that intelligence that you built, not us. It's not about Shedmate. I built for you here a template that you can use to speed up your implementation, but you can create anything you want here in your company. And that's when you start managing your data, your shed data, not someone else's. And the last part here is the pricing database. So the pricing database is very simple. This is your pricing files, right? This is how much you pay for kilograms of galvanizing. It's 91 cents. And who is your supplier? It's how much you pay for the connection module base plate, for structural cables, for SHS in terms of your kilograms, or universal beams, or ZEDs, or Uniclad, or trim deck. So here is where you can export this to Excel, make any modifications, and import it back to Shedmate. It's extremely easy to do that, the workflow. And here comes now my recommendation to implement all of this fast in your company if you haven't done yet, or if you're in the process of doing it. The first stage here is to understand something that we call the ABC curve. And I'll show you here. I think we have the ABC curve documentation here somewhere. Let's go to the articles, Shedmate articles. Actually, setting up pricing, we have a course here built specifically for you. And this course has many different lessons. Like everything that I was showing you to here, you have details here about how to manage base materials, understand some items, maximum of items. Everything is there. If you go or someone in your business go through this and understands this, this is the shell of the egg, right? To make an omelette, you got to break the eggs. This is it. This is the effort you need to do. You need to understand this, but once you put the information here, it's done and it's replicable, and you can raise your business and grow your business from one salesperson to 40 using the same methodology. So if you go to the ABC curve method, this is what I really want to focus here. There is a video that I recorded myself that shows you exactly, let me go here straight to the point.
Hello and welcome to our course.
That shows you exactly a breakdown of every single item in your shed and how much they represent of the full price. So if you have a look here on the ABC curve, this is what I mean about my ABC curve. Where is it? There you go. So we have specific items, the products A, B, or C. So this is a little bit of a cost engineering, right? We studied this in when doing engineering for cost analysis. So there are some items that they represent about 80% of your pricing, and they're generally like the 20% of the items. So here we're talking about cladding, we're talking about concreting, we're talking about erection fees, we're talking about insulation, roller door openings in general. So these items, they represent a bulk part of your pricing. And then you have the products B, which are the more like accessories. So we're talking about personal access doors, we're talking about the some specific types of brackets that are more expensive. We're talking about flashing, we're talking about secondary items. And then you have the product C, which is the majority of the items. So this is the purling bowls, all of the details that they create volume, but not necessarily they represent a big part of your pricing. In saying that, what I want to do for you here, as I said in this episode, is to reduce the size of that monster. So a good way to actually start using Shedmate right now, and actually in this video you can see all of those items, and you can download this PDF if you want that has additional information about the ABC curve that I've built for you. It shows you the category A, which is 80% of impact, and they're talking here about wall, roof, labor, concreting, large features, insulation, and the category B, moderate impact, and then have category C, which is all of those bits and pieces, the little details, fasteners, flashing, cover sheets, sealants, trim accessories, you name it, right? So the goal here for you is let's focus on what actually moves the needle, what's more expensive in your shed. Because if you have that really set up in a way that's precise, and then you understand your pricing, then this is where you're going to be bargaining and negotiating with your suppliers to reduce costs, because that's where your margins are. If 80% of your price comes from the frames and cladding and insulation, this is where you need to be negotiating better prices. And then I see a lot of people, when they sign out to Shedmate, sometimes they put someone else to actually do the implementation, and that person is really worried about the purling bolt detail, and the formulas are extremely complex, and they kind of give up. They say, oh no, this is too much. Of course, because you're overcomplicating something that doesn't need to be. Okay? Can we do all of those things precisely? Yes, automatically. Yes, absolutely. We can do that in a very high level of precision, but not in the first week. And this is my point. If you're just starting up, if you're in the first days of implementation, do the 20% of items that represent 80% of the price. And the ABC curve methodology is there showing you exactly what to do. If you watch the lesson here, you're going to understand how it works. And here's just another way to view this. So if we export what I've done here was exactly to export this, export to Excel, the pricing calculations here, and then sort by price total, and you export this to Excel. And if you actually quantify, coming back here to this video, and if you actually quantify the accumulated value, which is the sum of all of these items combined, and you find the percentage of the individual total price, you can see that only those items here, they represent 80% of the shed value. So we're talking here about concrete for footings, sliding glass door, windows, concrete footings, roller doors, engineering, reinforcement mesh, C-frames, top hats, corrugated iron cladding. This is for the cold form shed, by the way. Concrete slab and apron, concrete for slabs, and erection fees. So that's 80% of your shed. So if you focus on the up to 90% of the items, which are not a lot of items, and if you want to put a markup that kind of covers for the rest, or you kind of put some like some that will cover the bits and pieces, you can start quoting sheds. You can start going to the market. You can start selling without having to overcomplicate. And look, I'm not saying that so you can be lazy. It's very important to say that. I'm not saying this so you can, okay, I'm going to focus on the 90% that Arthur said and forget the rest. No, I want you to go to 99%. I want you to go super specific here because you can. Shedmate allows you to do it. Allows you to be very specific about your pricing. But you don't need to do all of that in the first week. So this is what I am giving the appeal here for. You need to focus on what's more relevant for your pricing Add Shedmate to your 3D online designer. Run some Facebook and Google ads so you can start getting inquiries. Quote those projects, provide a great value to your customers, and then you can start thinking about the other areas of, now we sold that deal, let's buy engineering for it. Or now I sold the deal, let me export here a Tekla file so my team can start doing the fabrication drawings. So Shedmate has a great way to optimize your workflow, but specifically on pricing, you need to keep it simple. And I hope that in this 1 hour session here that is getting to the end, I was able to show you why this is important, why it's important to actually invest time setting this up right in a way that's easy, transparent to anyone to see, that's much better than those complex Excel spreadsheets that we don't understand where those formulas are coming from. Here we have transparency. Anyone can come here and say, we spent $4,100 with concrete slab and aprons, and that's concrete slab and aprons actually this one. And we spent $4,400 in trim deck iron cladding, and this is where the trim deck iron cladding is coming from as well in Shedmate, including the sliding door panels. So you have transparency here. You build the system once. That building works for you years from now. And my light's off again. Let me go back to it. Yes, I'm back. And then once you build it, then all of this will work for you, forever. Okay. You keep evolving, you keep optimizing it. There are courses, there are templates, there's so much that we offer for you to have a successful implementation in your business. And then there are the more expert tools here that you can explore if you want. You can go to calculation settings and see what you can restrict your point of sales environment to do. Some people won't be able to show variables, groups, summary. They won't be able to show to see warnings, or they won't be able to export specific templates like contracts. All of this can be done here. You can define when the quote expires and so much more. So I hope in this video I was able to actually answer some of those questions. I received a lot of questions in terms of the instant quoting, and most of them they're related to these more complex items that can be assessed in a one-by-one. It's mostly about that return on investment of your time if you want to handle it. So if you really want to create a complex formula to calculate $2 on your shed pricing for a boat, look, can it be done? Yes, absolutely. We can do that. We can do that. We have done that. We actually have templates to do it here. Just because every company is very different. But really focus on what matters, because that's what's going to move the needle so you can get this up and running to implement it. Other questions that I received this week, they're related to the pricing calculation groups, and as I mentioned here, you can modify them. So just as an example here, for example, let's say you don't want structural steel and fabrication, you just want a fabrication group. That's very easy. You come here, delete what you don't want, and confirm. So I have fabrication. If I go back to my main area, I can use my filters here, and I can search for fabrication. So Shedmate now shows me everything that includes in fabrication. So I have column fabrication, mullion fabrication, and then I have some connections here. So connection. I have some galvanizing. I'll leave galvanizing in fabrication as well. And column stiffener, so this is kind of materials. So if I wanted, I could change this to like shed materials instead of fabrication. So just showing you how quick these changes they happen here on this template that you create. And then if I go back to my groups, then I have my fabrication costs, and those items are actually added to my shed materials. So the same modification I did here, you can do for anything. If you don't want to include erection, okay, all you have to do is come here to the pricing calculation, get everything that's erection, delete it, and done, and save that as a new database. And that's how you handle this. There is another question that I'm probably not going to have the time to cover here, but they're related to the variables. Maybe you can have just one session about variables, because there's so much nice things you can do here in variables. But one example of a variable we could create here is to calculate delivery. So let me see if there is any. Yeah, delivery distance. So as you can see here, I have a delivery distance variable that was created as a kind of options, and then I have here regions. So if it's within Mount Gambier region, 60 kilometers. If it's in Aracourt, 160, Riverlands, Melbourne, Adelaide, you name it. But you can also have here a new variable that's not a formula. and it's just a number specifically, and I could call it delivery distance. And I'm going to create this, and now this is just a value that could be anything, right? So the way it works is I could actually trigger this to be a public variable. A public variable is just something that's going to show up in our designer for our sales team to actually see and modify directly. In saying that, if I come back here and to my Shedmate, let me just close all of this, open my drafts. So if I use the same project and open my sales point, and if I go here to variables, you can see that I could add that new variable here, delivery distance. And now, just because I have two on the same name, I'm just going to use here kilometers, right? So what I'm going to do here, just for this example, I'm going to save this database, and I can save as a new costing database, and I can call this sample demo Q&A. So that's today's live. So now when I go back here, I can actually see that my current database is another database that I use to demonstrate this. So what I can do is I can go back and use now my simple demo Q&A. Yes, I want to swap the costing database, and when I click on it, it's going to ask me if I want to save this quotation as well. In this example, no, I'm just using this to demonstrate to you guys. And if I come to variables, I can see that now I have that delivery distance now. And if I just type anything here, you can notice that nothing will happen on my pricing. If I say, look, my delivery distance is going to be $100. Okay, nothing changed there. Let me save the quoting. How I can make Shedmate change any type of value that I add here in a public variable in my pricing. That's what I'm going to quickly do now before we wrap up. And I'll do this by creating an item from scratch. So if you follow me here on this Q&A, you're going to be able to create anything in Shedmate that you want. And I'll do this starting by the pricing database. That's the most basic item when we're reverse engineering that full $75,000 pricing. And I'm going to create here in the main item a new item. And this item is going to be delivery costs. So let's say I have a delivery cost variable, okay? ERP is your enterprise resource planning code. So some companies do have this, and there will be, for example, delivery costs and a specific code. So this would be a code for that specific item. We're not using this on this example. And I'm going to pick a category. My category for this price, it's going to be logistics. And the unit here, it's going to be pretty much kilometers, right? So what's my price per kilometer? So let's suppose here, I'm just guessing, that this company uses $15.9 per kilometer, right? to actually deliver the shed. And the supply description is my company PTY Ltd. Let's hit done. So now if I go here to delivery, so this is the one we created here, delivery costs, right? And you can see this is not linked to any of those pricing calculations. We just created an item in our pricing database, but it's not linked yet, so it's not actually triggering a price for me. So what I want to do is I want to link it, and I could navigate to my pricing calculation, or just stay here and modify this just by clicking on this link. When I do this, now look what happens. Shedmate is going to tell me, hey, I understand you're trying to calculate delivery cost, and that's the kilometers, and we're using here a unit price that's in length, and I have $15.9 per kilometer. How do I calculate the kilometers? So this is when you come here and add a rule, and we can click here, and instead of summing anything, we can specify. So if you're curious about all of those different things, and you go back to the course I built for you here on the setting up Shedmate costing, everything is there. How to use sum items, maximum of to quantify cladding cover sheets, or sums to quantify cladding and frames, how to specify individual items for council fees, delivery. So everything is here, guys. If you follow this course, you're going to be able to do most of your pricing. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify, and I'm going to, instead of specifying just a number, I'm going to specify a variable, and that variable will be delivery. That one just created, right? Delivery distance in kilometers. Pick the variable, and now the delivery for what we typed there is $0. So what Shedmate is doing now, it is multiplying this specification by $15,900. In this case, it's 0. That's okay. Let me save this quotation for this example that I'm using here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my model here on this sales point. So now that we set up that, we just need to set up once, and we update the pricing database just for the as we have price increases. Now if I come back here and I go to my variables, I have my delivery distance. Look at this, 75,556.8. If I say, hey, this is going to be 500, look at that. My price now goes to 83.5. If I save this quoting and I send this quoting somewhere, three months from now, my manager says, hey, look, that customer, he's a friend of mine. You can just cut the delivery cost for that. Okay, how much was my delivery cost? Easy. You go to your instant quoting. You go to your pricing calculations, and you can search here, delivery. And then you're going to find out that we have here the delivery costs. And that's why I put 515.9, so it could be a high cost, so you can easily identify. So this is what it's actually calculating for that shed. It's calculating 500 kilometers, and it's calculating $15.9 per kilometer. That's why we've got $7.950. So this is an example here on how you can create specific variables for your projects. And these variables, they can apply for delivery fees, for council approval purposes, for private certifiers, in which you can just type a specific value of a quotation they gave to you. It can apply for equipment and material hire, and there's so many more ways to use variables and build an amazing system that becomes very easy for you to quote sheds. So once you start building on top of it, once you start learning more about the system, and you start, actually getting our experts to help you and discuss with you the best way to build the project variable list for your company, you're going to be able to have an amazing system that works for you in the way you want. And that's the big transformation I see here. So that's it, guys. We've been talking here about a lot of different things, but my main goals and a summary of this conversation was to give you that vision, the importance of moving from an operator to an owner of your business, of going from being the only person that can quote sheds to the person that owns the business and oversees those quoting sheds, so you can scale with confidence, so you can increase the amount of value you provide to your customers in the first meeting. And if you are passionate about the craft you do, if you're passionate about providing value to those customers, building a reputation for your firm and making money, I think that's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer to have the best system in the market and move from a company quotation person to a company system that scales, no matter if you have one person or 20 people working for you. We have seen many cases of people who started using this, and they came back to us and said, look, there's no way I could grow my business in the way I did without using those tools that Shedmate's providing. Not only the tools, but the methodology and the mindset, because by doing this, you have that peace of mind to scale. You have the peace of mind not only to empower other people with different permissions to use the system. So it's like using here a 3D online designer that contains your business intelligence for your pricing and your business intelligence for preliminary engineering, all synced. So no matter what changes are made, you can see that that pricing updating in real time. You can see that engineering applicable in real time. And this is the main difference of what you can provide to your customers in the first meeting, so you can win those projects in the first meeting. If you're an existing customer and you still have questions about the implementation of instant quoting, I say to you, focus on the 90%. Book another one-to-one meeting with us. You have access to those one-to-one meetings and the package that you subscribe. You have access to 5 of those hours, and you can do this. And you also have access to our GPS. For those who we're not customers yet, you're going to be curious, but yeah, we have a GPS that shows you step-by-step on how to get there. So the GPS will cover what next lesson you need to watch, what next activity you need to apply, what next meeting you need to book, so you can get all of this up and running in your business. And that's it, guys. I hope this was valuable for some of you. If it was, please leave us a comment below. This industry is very interesting because no one wants to talk, because Shedmate becomes a trade secret for them. But for us here, we're creating content, we're talking to you. When I hear how this is helping your business. So if you're following, just put like a nice emoji below, or just put like, yeah, I'm following Arthur, so I can see that you're actually, following us here. And I hope that this was valuable for you. If there is anything else we can help you, let us know, and we're here to serve and help your company grow. Have a great one, and we'll see you in the next live event.